Hello YouTube, it's Tony. So today I'll be showing you an Abyssal Demon Slayer guide, and so this will be in the Kuradal's dungeon. Now an update as of last year increased the spawn rates as well as removing the spikes. So you can get there directly by using the Mask of Abyss teleport, or otherwise you'll need level 90 agility if you're gonna go from Kuradal's dungeon. Alright, so here's my gear setup. I'm using a magic setup because it has the best AoE. So I start off with Noxious Staff, but otherwise you can use a lower tier staff if you don't have that. The perks I have are Aftershock 3 and Caraming 3. Now the Caraming perk really helps attract demons from across the map, otherwise Precise perk is fine. So then I have the Subjugation top and bottom, and so here are the perks. For the top I have Impatient 3 and Biting 2. Then for the bottom I would suggest Demon Slayer and Genocidal, as well as Scavenging perk. So the Cinderblade gloves is pretty optional as it does add extra poison damage. Otherwise you can just use Subjugation gloves as an alternative. Then I have Subjugation boots, but otherwise you can just use Silverhawks. Now the Amulet of Zealots is a non-degradable amulet, and so it does extra DPS when using Leech Curses. I think you get the idea by now because I've explained it so many times. So afterwards I have Luck of the Dwarves, and it helps you roll the rare drop table pretty often. So in my large rune pouch I have Air Surge runes as well as Alch runes. You can also bring an uncharged god book here as the pocket slot's pretty optional anyways. Then finally for the aura you can use any aura you want, but use Vampirism if you don't have Soul Split unlocked. An optional thing you can bring here is called the Ferocious Sigil. Now I didn't bother with this since it's pretty expensive, but it can be really helpful here. Basically what it does is that it instantly respawns all the creatures in your area, and so it only works in Kuradal's dungeon. Alright, so here's my inventory setup. I have the Aggression Potion, and afterwards I have Holy Overloads. Now Weapon Poison plus is optional, but it does offer some extra DPS. So then I have the Replenishment or Prayer Potions. I would also suggest you bring Infernal Urns as well as Urn Enhancer, as they can be really helpful to clean up the infernal ashes on the ground, as well as giving you prayer XP. So yes, this is a much cheaper alternative than a Tune Ectoplasmator. I'm not actually using this in this case because I'm already 200 mil prayer. I would also suggest you bring a gem bag, as they do drop a lot of gems. For the Spring Cleaner, I would only suggest you destroy the rune items, as the addy items are a loss. Then you can also bring Ring of Vigor and Enhanced Excalibur. I mean, both are optional, as you don't really need it here. So in my Slayer tool belt, I have the Charming Imp, and you can also bring Gold Accumulator as well, although it's pretty optional since you can just pretty much area loot them. Finally, the familiar I'm using is a legendary pet. I mean, you can just use a Demon Brawler familiar as it does offer some extra AoE, but the pouches and scrolls are quite expensive. Alright, so here's my prayers and action bar. For the prayers, I'm using Leech Magic Strength and Soul Split. If you don't have Soul Split unlocked, then just use Deflect Melee. So I'm using a regular Revolution rotation. You can also use Revolution ++ if you want. Anyways, for the basics, I have Corruption Blast on the first slot, followed by Dragon Breath, then Chain, and then you just fill the rest with whatever you like. You don't really need to use any threshold abilities as they have fairly low HP, but I do use Detonate once in a while. Finally, you're going to be using Sunshine as your main ultimate. You can also use Tsunami as well for extra AoE. So anyways, if you were to use a Revolution ++ setup, then just place Sunshine on your first slot, then follow with the basics I mentioned before. Alright, so here's the strategy. Just stand where I'm standing, which is in the middle, and it's parallel to the stalagmites and the exit portal. Just keep tagging the Abyssal Demons around the map, and you should pretty much be able to reach all the demons without having to move. Now you're going to use AoE abilities when they cluster. So you can also use Tuska's Wrath here when the elite Abyssal Demon spawns. Anyways, just area loot the drops and then drag and drop to your money pouch to alch the rune items. I didn't bother alching the Adamant Battle Axes since they actually sell for higher than alch price. Alright, so here's my stats. I killed 257 Abyssal Demons in 11 minutes. Now if you were to extrapolate this in an hour, you'd get a whopping 1,400 kills, which is equivalent to 925k magic XP per hour, 390k Slayer XP per hour, and 100k prayer XP per hour from the Infernal Urns. It's still pretty amazing for Crimson Charms, honestly. While you cannot camp these Abyssal Demons here for an entire hour, but these stats are based on how fast it took me to do the task. I didn't keep track of the GP per hour, but yeah, many people do know it's quite amazing anyways. So I'm going to compare you the other Abyssal Demon XP rates. So before the spawn buff, I averaged around 1,000 kills per hour. And a lot of times, I outkilled the spawn rates basically. For the Slayer Tower roof, I would average around 1,400 kills per hour. However, it's extremely crowded, although it's actually campable. Then finally for the Wilderness Abyssal Demons, I'd average almost 1,500 kills per hour. But I mean, it's overall risky because it's the wilderness, although it's not even that crowded at all. Alright, so in conclusion, I'd say this task is pretty great for combat XP, as well as being AFK. You don't even need tier 90 gear to get fast XP rates. However, there are quite a few disadvantages for this task. For one thing, it's quite short for a task, and I also had trouble hopping worlds for this. I mean, Kuradal's dungeon has gotten more crowded these days. And then finally, the Slayer XP isn't the best because we got Ripper Demons and Mammoths, etc. With that being said, I'd say this task is okay overall. You just want to do it if you're short on Slayer points. To conclude this, I do have a raw footage in the description. So yeah, thanks for watching and I hope it helps. If I missed anything, feel free to ask.